Hello everyone, and today we're going to take our old outdated radio for our Nissan Frontier and change it out to this beautiful aftermarket one that has more features such as wireless Android Auto. So let's get started. And for our very first step, we'll take our 10mm socket and socket wrench, and let's go ahead and disconnect the ground wire on our battery. So we'll just go ahead and loosen it up, and that feels about right, and it should lift right off. And we'll go ahead and set that aside. Next, we'll go ahead and work our way back into the vehicle and go and remove our storage tray. So all you have to do is lift right up on the back side here, and it should come right out. Now, however, this one was removed a few times, so it's pretty easy. So you might have to use a trim removal tool and just lift it up that way. But overall, it's pretty simple. And now I'll go ahead and pick up the camera that we can see what I see. And we have one screw right in the center we need to remove. So I'll go and grab my Phillips screwdriver and go ahead and take it out. And this is the only thing that's fastening the cluster lid C to the actual car itself. So we took that out without dropping it. That's pretty good. And the cluster lid C is this panel right here, and there's nothing much to it. All we're going to do is take it from the backside and pull towards you. Just like that, and it attached most of the clips. Now we have a few at the bottom that are kind of fighting me a little bit, so we'll go ahead and take our trim removal tool and go ahead and pry away from it. And just a little bit. There we go. Now this is not going to come out completely because we still have a few items attached to it. And let me go ahead and fold it down, and we have 4 harnesses we need to detach. So we'll go ahead and start with the easiest one first. And that one wasn't too bad. Now let's go for the next one. Unfortunately, I did need needle nose pliers, and that came out. And then we'll go for the big boy next. And come on, just got to pinch it a little bit. And come on. Come on. There we go. That fought me just a little bit. Now this one, you will use your trim removal tool and push that clip inward, that locking clip, and then pull the latch to the right. And it should start lifting right out. There we go. And a little bit more, and we'll lift up. And there we go, now we're completely disconnected. So we'll leave the harnesses hanging, take a look at our cluster lid, and doesn't look like it's in bad shape. We'll set that aside. And the next items we need to remove are 4 screws. So we have 2 at the top of the audio unit, 1 on the bottom right, and then 1 on the bottom left. And this is the same Phillips screw. So we're going to take our Phillips screwdriver and we'll go ahead and take these out, hopefully without dropping them. So we'll see about getting that one out, and there we go. So there's 1. And there's 2, number 3, and holding the radio for number 4, and this comes right out. Now, right off the bat, you may notice an aftermarket wiring harness, but don't worry, we're going to disconnect it just the same. So we're going to pull it from the radio. Come on. And there we go. And now I'll set the radio aside and then go ahead and pull the aftermarket harness. And we'll go ahead and disconnect it from the factory setup because we're no longer going to use it, but we're going to keep the factory harness in its place. So there's 1, and we'll get the antenna. And there's 2. And those we're going to reuse. And now that we have the old radio out, let's go ahead and put things together so we can install the new radio. So the new radio actually looks pretty good, feels pretty light. And of course they come with their wiring connections, which is good. We'll throw those aside just for the moment. And I also purchased an aftermarket kit. This has all the brackets you need as well as all the harnesses you need to connect to the OEM harness, which is awesome. Now this comes with an excess amount of items, so 2 of these bags we won't need. We're going to need this bag right here, but we don't need that one. Same with the antenna. We don't need that antenna bag, but we need the other one. So these are the 3 bags we're going to use. And we'll go ahead and unbox the brackets first. And it's just 3 plastic pieces. There's not much to it. And of course some screws that we won't use. Now these brackets are pretty simple. So right now we got 1 on the left, 1 on the right, but we got these 2 brackets in the center and we need to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first one and see if I can go ahead and break with my finger. And I did. However, the bigger ones, I did need a pair of pliers for. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our pliers in there and go ahead and work it back and forth. Now, if you want, you can still use some tin snips, but I just made it easier on myself. So there's one side done, and we'll do the same thing with the other side. And with this particular radio, there is a frame that is around it, but it's basically just held in by a few clips on the edge. And I'll see if I can focus so you can see what I see. So it's right there, and those clips come out very easily. All you got to do is take your thumb and kind of pry against them. And it pops right out. Now we're not going to use this, so we'll go ahead and set that aside. Now the radio also came with its own bracket and screws. The metal brackets we won't use, but the screws we definitely will, because these actually fit perfectly on the side of the radio. So we'll go ahead and get our brackets in place, that way we know which side is left, which side is right. And that's about what we're looking for. And now I'll go ahead and start installing the brackets. I'll go ahead and start with one side and put 2 screws in. Because when I lined it up, it seemed we only got 2 spots for the screws. However, this radio is very, very light, so 2 should be enough anyway. And I'll go ahead and get the screw started. So there's 1. And I apologize for the camera angle in advance. And there's 2. We'll at least get them started. I kind of want them loose. I don't want them too tight. And we'll go ahead and do the other side as well. Get them somewhat snug. And now let's go ahead and snap in the front of this frame. And this is the one that came with that bracket setup. And there's one side that snapped in. Let's go to the other side. And do the same thing. It does require a little bit of finesse, so just be patient. And that looked like that snapped in. So now I'll go ahead and tighten up all 4 of these screws. And you just want them to where they're snug. You do not want to over tighten them. And taking a look at it, looks like everything's lined up very nicely. Yep, I think we can work with that. So now here comes the fun part. Now we got to wire everything up. Now this is the manual for the radio, and it shows you where every wire goes that matches up with the wiring harness. Now the good news is this shows tit for tat for colors as far as what the kit comes with. Because when you match these up side by side, you're going to notice they're going to be pretty much exactly the same. So yellow is going to be yellow, blue is going to be blue, and so on and so forth. Now, majority of these manufacturers, they try to keep this standardized, and I'm glad this looks to be the same. And the way we're going to connect everything up, we're going to use these red butt connectors. We're going to need a nice handful. And we'll go ahead and start with the wiring harness that came with the kit. This is the one that matches up the OEM plug in your vehicle. Now, these are kind of pre-stripped, so all you have to do is pull them apart. I want to go ahead and bend the top. There we go. That way it's nice and short and somewhat thick. And then we'll take our butt connector, fit that on there, take our wire crimpers, and go ahead and crimp it down. And we're going to put a nice little force on this just to make sure we got a really good crimp. And that felt pretty good. We'll go and do a pull test. Yep, that's definitely going to hold. And we'll go ahead and repeat the exact same steps on the rest of the wires. And there goes our last one, and it felt pretty good. Now on this wiring harness, you're going to see one extra black wire, and it's flagged. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that later on. But let's go ahead and finish up the rest of the wiring harnesses that came with the kit. So now we have our antenna one. Same thing, we're going to go ahead and crimp on that butt connector. Do a pull test. Feels pretty good. And for that one black cable that says for Subaru only, we'll go ahead and lob that off because we're not going to use it. So now we'll go ahead and grab our reverse camera cable. And this is the one that came with the radio. So we'll start with the end that has the RCA cable and a red wire. We'll go ahead and strip off the tip of that red wire. Very nice. Go ahead and install our butt connector. And that felt pretty good. And of course do our pull test. Yep, felt pretty good. Now let's go ahead and move on to the wiring harnesses on the radio side. And same thing as earlier, we'll go ahead and pull off the very tips of this insulation because these are kind of already pre-cut. And all you gotta do is give it a little bend and pull. And we'll do the same thing on the last harness, which is our small dinky one. Now we have the little pink wire, so that's the only one I'm pretty much going to use, and the black wire. The other ones I'm not going to touch because I don't plan on using. And now for our last preparation, we're going to go ahead and take a ring lug and go ahead and connect both these black wires together because this is going to be our ground. The ground's the only thing that's not really connected by the wiring harness. It's going to be connected by the chassis ground of the vehicle. So go ahead and attach a ring lug to it, and I'll show you where we're going to attach it when we do the installation. Go ahead and crimp it down. Now, I don't have any specialized crimpers for this particular ring lug, but my wire strippers should work pretty good. Get a little crimp in the middle. So far, it looks pretty good. Nothing damaged. Quick pull. Yep, looks pretty good. And now we're ready to connect the two harnesses together. So we're going to connect the wiring harness that came with the radio and the wiring harness that came with the kit so you can connect it to your OEM plugs in your vehicle. And it's the same thing as earlier. We're just going to connect the butt connectors together. All the colors should match. And just give it a nice little crimp and pull test. And there's our last one. Looks pretty good. And these other wires we're not going to use. We're just going to go ahead and leave them hanging. Now let's go ahead and connect all these plugs right to the radio. Now the good news is there's not much to it. There's only two major plugs that could be confused. But the one that's yellow-red, that goes on the left side. And that should snap right in. Looks pretty good. And let's see if I can get everything out of the way. Now the second plug, the one that has like purple, that goes on the right. And that snaps right in. And then we have our small dinky one. We'll go ahead and plug that in as well. Very nice. Then we'll go ahead and go to our reverse camera, and that's that middle yellow RCA plug. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and connect our antenna. And that felt pretty good. And doing a quick check. Yep, looks like everything's connected. Everyone's ready to rock and roll. Let's go ahead and put it in the vehicle. All right, now we're back to our vehicle. Sorry about the glare, by the way. And we'll go ahead and start with our ground. And there's two screws. There's one at the top and one at the bottom that are close by we're going to use. We'll go ahead and use the one at the top just for convenience. So go ahead and take this one screw out. Very nice. And we're going to put that ring lug between the plastic and the metal. I want this thing touching the chassis. I want as much ground connection as possible. And we'll go ahead and put that screw back in. At least start with finger tight while holding the radio. And then go ahead and screw it in with our Phillips screwdriver. That felt pretty good. And now all we have to do is just connect our wiring harness. We'll go ahead and start with the antenna first. And it only fits in one way, so that was pretty easy. And then we got our big plug here. Again, only fits in one way. And other way. All right, and that snapped in. That felt pretty good. Do a little pull. Very nice. So far, this is looking pretty good. And now this is our reverse camera cable. For now, I'm just going to tuck it down there just till I get to it later. And we'll see about pushing these wires inward as well, just to tuck everything in. Very nice. And now we'll go ahead and line up the radio with the screw holes. So I'll go ahead and install all 4 screws while holding the radio, and we'll just start with finger tightening them. So there's number 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll go for a back around and tighten them all up. And yep, that feels pretty good, nice and sturdy. And now we can go ahead and reconnect our cluster lid C harnesses, and it plugs in the same way they came out. So we'll push that one in, move the latch over. That went in very easily. We'll go ahead and push that one little cable aside. There we go. Go with the big boy cable. Very nice, that snapped in. Go to the next one. And the last one. Beautiful. And now we can go ahead and install our cluster lid. So bear with me, the camera angle's a little weird. And let me go ahead and tuck in those cables as well, so that way we don't pinch them. Alright, got those in place. Move the camera up a little bit. And I'll go ahead and start with the bottom and kind of work my way up. And this should just fit in like a glove. So get the bottom snapped in. Work my way to the top. Give that a little push. A little bit more. There it goes. Fits right around that radio. Oh yeah, it definitely looks a lot better. That felt really good. And now we can go ahead and install that one little screw. So I'll grab my Phillips screwdriver and go ahead and tighten that down. Doesn't need to be over tight. Just make it good and tight. And come on. Very nice. And then we'll go ahead and install our storage tray. And this one just basically gets smacked right in. Get that lined up. A few smacks. Very nice. And now we go back under the hood. Go ahead and reconnect our ground cable. So we got that in place. Take our 10mm socket and socket wrench. And we'll go ahead and snug it up. And that felt pretty good. Yep, not going anywhere. And now the moment of truth. Let's turn it on and hopefully no smoke comes out. Alright, so far so good. Yep, looks like we got something. So now let's go ahead and test out a few of these features. Test out our radio. Yeah, looks like we got signal, so that's good. And I'm not going to go set up all my presets. I'm just going to test out a few of these just to make sure it does go to the next station. Okay, that's so far so good, not too bad. Alright, now let's go ahead and try out the cool features. Because I'm very curious about how this wireless Android Auto is going to work. So let's see, we'll go ahead and click on that little phone link. There we go, and I have an Android, so Android Auto. And now all we have to do is follow these steps right here. So we got to go to Bluetooth, look for car kit, and then type in the pin 000. So I did that on my phone. Let's see how this works. And takes a few seconds. Come on. Oh, this is looking promising. And there we go. Oh, wow, that was pretty good. So far, it looks really nice. Let's go ahead and hit the music button. All right, it's got some of my music on there. And since this looks like a keeper, let's go ahead and take off the film off the front, because I don't plan on returning this now. And look at that, it has a nice little beautiful shine. This is looking really nice. Now, one last thing I want to test is the reverse camera setup. So the ends look like this, and this was included with the radio. Nice little simple camera, nothing much to it. And it has the connection right there. So let's go ahead and plug that up. Okay, that felt pretty good. And it looks like a nice camera. And I'm going to go ahead and hook up the positive and negative to a little 12-volt power supply I have just to test out the reverse connection. So turn on the vehicle. Everything should pop up. Okay. Now let's go ahead and turn on the battery. And look at that. So our reverse camera is lit up and it does work. So if I wire this correctly and I put it in reverse, this reverse camera will work. So installing this thing is very promising. Now I'm not going to do it on this video, but I might do it on the next video just to show you the full installation process. But looking at it, it does look really cool. It's really clear. I like how this is turning out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And the radio goes back to normal. That's awesome. And let's just out of curiosity, let's see how long this cable is, because I am kind of curious before I get deep in the weeds. So this is still connected to my radio right now, and I'm just stretching it out just to kind of see what it is. And look at that. I'm thinking that thing's about 25 feet if I had to guess, so... Yep, and that's where the camera connection is, so let's bring it towards the back, because I'm probably going to hook it towards my license plate. And it looks like we have plenty of slack, because I want to route it in a very intricate way, so I want to make sure I have plenty of room. But for now, let's go ahead and tie it up, and I'll go ahead and stuff it under the dash until the next video. And overall, I'm very happy with this radio setup. I think it works very nicely. It looks pretty cool. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe.